The education system also tells you you're a science kid or commerce kid or arts kid.
But now, either because I chose not to be or because the world itself changed so much that identity is not available to me anymore.
I don't think it's a choice that you make, it's made around you.
Years and years and years of doing the same thing has an impact which may not be immediately visible. But then when you turn around and you say, oh, but who was I when I was 21, 22? What dreams did I have? Difficult question to face.
We know it'll put more pressure on women in the workforce.
We are asking people to consider other parallel identities in a world where they don't know whether that will be appreciated.
Even now, a sabbatical feels like an extreme option.
I saw that when I started stop doing the non-work aspect of work, it unsettles a lot of people.
When the world around us is so fluid, why is it that for so many of us, our career feels so static, so tied to one identity, one thing that we really do well? Because, well, mostly we've been doing it for so long, or it's the only thing we learned how to do, and now that we're good at it, we'll stick to it. It's a complex world. There are a lot of nuances here, many layers. And the easy thing that we could tell you is hey, find something else you like or enjoy. But we also know that that is just as difficult. So let's unpack what happens when your career is your identity. And for in many ways, the rug under your feet gets pulled out. Shall we?
Yes.
Welcome to Small Talk Work Play Build. I'm Subha Chandrasekharan, leadership and career growth coach.
And I'm Hasita. I'm a brand consultant and co-founder at Motley Crue.
I was thinking one of the very early workshops that I did for a large company, but it was for their Women's Day. And they wanted me to do a very small, maybe 1 hour session on personal branding at work, right? How do you really show people what you're good at, etc. And I was kind of making my intro slide, and instead I was trying to do something a little different, and I was trying to write what all I am, right? And said, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, banker, a lot of career words, and then to say I'm a mom, I'm a writer, I'm this, I'm that. And I remember how difficult that was because I had just stepped out of a career in banking. And so that's just how I had identified myself for so many years that to even call myself anything else felt like a fraud. Like, how can you say you're an entrepreneur? It's just been a year, right? And you're trying something. But fundamentally, aren't you just still a banker? Because that's what you are qualified to do, and that's what you did, and that's what you did well at, right? So, and this was after I had stepped out. So, I'm just thinking if I tried to make that slide when I was still
You
in,
didn't have that workshop in
yeah,
hand. Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of any of those words, and my identity was so tied to my work, and that was the scariest part of jumping off.
That's so many of us. One, when you're in college, you're already told that,
Yeah,
you should make the most of your degree. You should.
yeah,
And it is a privilege. I acknowledge the privilege of higher education,
yeah.
right? Um, but at what point do those stories start becoming a little limiting? I see this with a lot of younger folk who now work in my team. And by younger, I mean post 25,
Hmm,
but
hmm,
under 30.
hmm,
Um, and there's an interesting inflection point that seems to take place there. It definitely happened to me, and I see it happening to others as well, which is that early excitement of your paychecks, your social credibility. I
hmm,
work at so and so
hmm,
brand,
hmm,
even the idea that I might be creating impact.
hmm,
All of those things start shifting. They
hmm.
start becoming a little stale, and you start asking the question of, okay, but what now?
Yeah,
And it's a very tricky, very, very difficult space to be. To
correct.
not know who you will be in the next 5 years is
Yeah,
not a very comforting thought for a lot
yeah.
of us.
No, you're right, because very early on, the education system also tells you you're a science kid or commerce kid or arts kid, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lane that's starting to get carved
Yeah.
out for you. So and that lane also had, okay, if you're smart, then obviously you're a science kid,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
as though the other lanes needed less intellect,
Hmm.
which when I look back now, I feel like, oh, I wish I had
Yeah.
even considered, but it was never under consideration because, oh, you're smart.
Yeah. So
Like,
therefore, you must
you must be a
be.
science kid, and
Yeah.
so engineering happened. And I remember entering B school. I went straight from undergrad to grad, so I didn't work formally in between. um, Feeling quite like, who am I? What am I here for?
Hmm.
What's going to play out in the next few years? Because I have to drop that identity. Like, once
Hmm.
you're in B school, um, being the science kid or the engineer is not serving you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or,
But
how do you?
interestingly, then that begins the question of why shouldn't we even drop the labels, right? Like as a coach, I'm sure you
Hmm.
meet a lot of people where the struggle is just that to say, I identified as so and so for so long, but now either because I chose not to be or because the world itself changed so much that identity is not available to me anymore.
Hmm.
So, what happens that might cause you to want to even shift your identity at all?
I mean, I don't think it's a choice that you make, it's
Hmm.
made around you,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So, uh, after that, if you take up a job in any financial institution, then you are a banker, right? Or you are a finance person now.
Hmm.
The fact that you have been trained with an engineering mindset is by the way.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
We tend to forget that there is value in that, learning curve that you went through.
Hmm.
And a chartered accountant goes through a different learning curve, an engineer goes through a different learning curve, a science or maths or physics student or a commerce student goes through a certain learning curve.
Hmm.
And you bring, like you said, actually you bring that into the workplace,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
but then you have to adopt a new title because of the work that you do,
Hmm.
and you do lose out some of your earlier, the skill sets that came from there. You don't really attribute it to that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. I think, yeah, just the idea that we've taken up a lot of complex products and solutions, and we, in fact, exclusively only did B2B solutioning for a very long time. I'm sure it comes from the fact that I was marinating in a universe of engineers and,
uh,
higher education in science
hmm,
folks, which has had its own, impact in terms of how I understand
yeah,
their world
yeah,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
sense.
Because um, I remember once in a while you remind me and you say, yeah, because I was a pharmacy student,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
right?
that's something about it is still very important to me.
Yeah, because there were certain skill sets part of that learning, weren't there? Like, that are unique to it.
For sure. I think a lot of whole body work, if that makes sense. You're
Hmm.
doing a lot of lab work, you're working with a lot of specimens, you're
Hmm.
bound by time. And by the time you're in higher education, there's no physics paper and chemistry paper, right? Like it's
Correct,
all
correct.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Of course, as part of my internships, also, I went and worked in a lot of labs around the
Uh,
country. So I think the idea that there is a whole body presence to the work that is being done, I think there's something about it still matters. In fact, I found out as recently as last week that it
mm,
matters to me.
yeah. No, you're right. We have to. How do we, drop those labels but still retain the essence?
Hmm, hmm,
Is
hmm.
a tricky thing.
Actually, that reminds me of the ship of Theseus
Uh,
philosophical idea that, it's a thought experiment, right? Like if you take a hypothetical ship and over many years you've replaced every single one of its parts with near identical or
mm,
exactly the
mm,
same parts as before,
mm,
is it the same ship as before or is it a different ship?
mm, yeah. And I'm just thinking the intent behind typically changing a part is to make it better.
Mm. Or that part has served its purpose,
Yeah,
or it
so
has been ruined in whatever
correct. So you're
way. Yeah.
fixing what is slightly broken or
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
needed, and hence you're adding the part to make a better version.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So if over time you've changed part after part after part, aren't you? actually creating better and better and better versions.
In my mind, I also see it as, I mean, again, it's philosophy, so there is no end to it. But I think it's the same ship, if that makes sense.
Huh,
But it lasted longer
huh.
because the
You made these
work was done
changes,
on
huh?
it.
You did
Yeah,
the work
yeah.
on it, yeah. And I think that comes to what has something that we've been kind of talking about a lot, that how much work do we do on ourselves
Hmm,
in
hmm,
this
hmm,
career journey?
hmm.
And that's coming up in a lot of conversations
Yeah.
because it is quite turbulent again outside,
Hmm,
right? It comes in phases, or it comes in a certain cycle. Probably a year back or a little before that, we did an episode on layoffs
hmm,
because
hmm.
it was rampant,
Happening everywhere. Yeah.
right? And we're hearing and seeing that again now,
Hmm,
right? Some under the guise of, oh, because of AI, your roles are redundant, the jobs are redundant, and some using that to for greater efficiency, for cost control, whatever it may be, or just keeping up with the market,
hmm, hmm,
right? Like,
hmm,
um, uh, I know somebody who's in the technical writing space, and that's something AI can do.
hmm,
You don't need those large teams to churn out product manuals and user guides,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
Over that learning, I think, is really amenable to AI.
hmm,
You have a base version and you just kind of keep adding to it. And so now they have to reimagine and rebrand themselves within the organization as customer experience folks, user experience folks, and they realize
hmm,
there is a whole set of skill sets they have to now learn.
hmm, hmm,
And they can they step out? Highly unlikely, because that same technical writing, others are also finding that it's not as important.
hmm, hmm,
And if they step out, they're competing with folks half their age
hmm.
who have that skill.
Yeah. And the enthusiasm, I think,
I mean,
because it does wear you down, right? Years and years and years of doing the same thing has an impact which may not be immediately visible. But
hmm,
then when you turn around and you say, oh, but who was I when I was 21, 22? What dreams did I have? Difficult question to face.
yeah. And I keep thinking back to that corporate me. And if I hear some of the stuff that I'm saying today, uh, I would be cheesed off. Yeah. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about community, you talk about hobbies and other interests, and, finding things you love and joy and all. Where the heck was the time for
Time,
that?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Big one, no? Also,
uh,
our cities are not designed for
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Our lives are not designed for it. We are that much more isolated. In fact, in the name of convenience, all we are doing is paying convenience fees. I don't know how
correct,
convenient we are.
correct.
And needless to say, traffic and pollution. There's so many factors that play into this. As recently as 2 weeks ago, the ex chairperson of Niti Aayog saying Delhi's pollution gave me cancer.
Hmm, hmm.
And you start to wonder, how do I live a
Yeah,
life in this system that seems to be designed against me?
yeah, yeah. So recently, our favorite IT founder was back saying, 996, that is work 9 to 9, six
Mhm,
days a week.
mm,
And that's the way to live it
mm.
up and be
Yeah.
useful to society.
No, and I want to call that nuance out there, which is to say, do I have the option to say no? If more
Mm,
and more large corporates which employ most of us are
mm,
going to keep heading in that direction, where is the opportunity to say no? Because I don't want to quit in a hurry, right? I don't want to get out and have nothing else
yeah.
left
So on
for
one
me.
side, you can't say no.
Hmm.
Um, and invariably that, I mean, we know it'll put more pressure on women in the workforce,
Hmm.
right? If you're working longer hours. And on the other side, we have zero systems to support this
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
terms of infrastructure, in terms of easy commutes, in terms of very, very predictable and reliable daycare systems,
Hmm.
in terms of nowadays elder care systems. There isn't a person I meet in my social circle who isn't taking care of an elder,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right? And whose life is impacted by it, so as to say, I need to go back because an elder is alone,
Yeah.
or I'm not traveling this weekend because an elder is unwell,
Hmm.
or,
Hmm.
so it's impacting life and decisions and things that you can do. And in the midst of that, you tell that person 996, and you don't have a choice because otherwise there is perhaps somebody younger or with more flexibility who's
Hmm.
willing to do the
Yeah,
996.
yeah. That replacement is the sad part of it. I think. How did we all become statistics?
Hmm.
And we are asking people to consider other parallel identities in a world where they don't know whether that will be appreciated, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, while I, as a woman, understand, that aspect of it perhaps a little more intuitively, for the longest time, the social role for men has been to be the provider.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you then say no? From tomorrow, I will stop providing for six people, either because it has happened that way or because I made
Hmm.
that choice. It's very very difficult. And for a long time, going from being a corporate worker to becoming a business owner gave you more flexibility
Yeah.
also. I
Yeah.
think that's the part we never spoke about enough, which is being able to design and live your own life.
Hmm.
But I wonder if that's enough for the next 5 years.
And can not everybody is a non-employee, right?
Hmm.
Like there are many of
Absolutely.
us who enjoy corporate structures, large organizations, institutional support,
Hmm.
um, some predictability in
Yeah.
your career. That if I do this, then a few years later I can do this, and then I can do this, and there are certain rewards which will come to me because of that. I think honestly, a large part of the working population is comfortable with that notion,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then there is the other part which is able to say, I will build something on my own,
Hmm.
and going back to our, what we started with saying the labels, like if you don't come from a background or a family that has dwelled in business,
Hmm.
then when you jump into it, it's the deep sea,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you realize that you're not wired for a lot of the decision making that
Hmm.
running a business requires, the
Yeah.
level of risk taking,
Hmm.
the level of being okay to try and fail, being okay to, or even the ability to catch a market trend.
Hmm. 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 The fluidity of, I don't know, being rich one day and poor the next.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. But I think ultimately, Asita, the writing is on the wall.
That's the bit, I mean, while we can and we do want to have a conversation on what's possible at the individual level, I hope that this is a call to action to some of the structures and systems which are saying you work 9 to 9, 6 days a week. Please do something for me in return. Don't expect me, or it's no longer enough to just pay me the money that you pay at the end of the month, the insurance. I would go so far as to say even the ESOPs, because God
Mm,
knows whether that'll exist
yeah.
tomorrow or not. Give me that space. Give me, if I'm going to spend my whole day there, then at least let me have those 2 hours, 3 hours in that day where I go do something else.
Mm. Yeah, it's a tough one. And I think, maybe if we break it down the generation by generation, what I like in the young generation in the workforce, like you said, maybe that 25 plus, right? 25 to 30, 30 maybe, 30,
Hmm.
35, is that they are one questioning a lot of this
Hmm.
in their own way. Um, they are pushing back
Hmm.
against some of these unwritten rules of how you uh, show up at the workplace. Um, are they perfect? No. But they're also trying, they're also
Hmm.
figuring
Hmm.
it out. So there will be enough noise from the older generation that, oh, they are not this, they are not that, they are not loyal, they are not whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
But they're trying to see what's the system that will work for us,
Hmm. Hmm.
because your 996 is not going to work for us,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? We have, for whatever reason, we want to do five other things,
Hmm.
or at least want to do one other thing.
Yeah. And if you don't facilitate that, then suddenly your value as an employer, I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah,
shifting big time.
yeah,
And thank God for it, honestly. And I
yeah.
think one of our guests spoke about bringing people from the outside so that we are not constantly in our own echo chambers of,
Mm,
letting guests come in and do workshops, talk about
mm,
their
mm.
work. And in fact, that's something we took away and we've started implementing as well in the early days, so that people at least know
Yeah,
what world is out there. No,
yeah,
if I'm going to sit in this box for all my waking hours, then I
Mm.
need to know what's going on in the world outside as well.
Yeah.
And that facilitation is on us. It's on us who have created the system to then also be flexible enough, change, adapt, hopefully.
Mm.
But at the same time, lots of people, especially in tech, are also, while it's a bad time to be even considering moves of that nature, sabbaticals are there, career breaks are there. People are more willing to talk about these things. Like
Mm.
a sabbatical was an exception to the rule, and it
Yeah,
only
yeah,
happened when a grave external situation
yeah.
prompted that. But today, I think it's even okay for that situation to be us and to say, no, I have had enough
Mm.
and I need to think, what happens after this. Again, comes with its own risks, comes with its own baggage, but the options exist and the conversations are more open.
Yeah. And you're right, because even now a sabbatical feels like an extreme option for
Hmm.
most of us. I remember in my organization, firstly, you had to finish 7 years to even qualify
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
a
Hmm. Hmm.
sabbatical or a break of that nature. But I think between not doing anything and just showing up day in and day out, and that is going to at some point lead to a very, kind of, it'll have the counter effect.
Hmm. Hmm.
The
Hmm.
burnout will make you, I don't know, quit in a rash way
Hmm.
because you've
Hmm.
just had enough,
Hmm.
right? Between that and taking a well earned sabbatical and a break, time out to think, do whatever, recharge, what can we do in between? I think is the big question, because there's a whole lot of folks, mid career or maybe in their 30s, um, just trying to say, hey, this is too much, and it's also not enough. It's
Hmm.
soul sucking in some ways,
Hmm.
and I need another outlet. I need to find, or everybody's telling me, right? The
That
gyan
I
givers
should.
like us
Yeah,
are
yeah, 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 of
telling
course.
me, find that one more thing you
Hmm.
enjoy,
Hmm.
find the hobby, nurture it. How in the world do I do that?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Is the really the problem statement, because the the career label that I've put on myself, it is that all encompassing,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? I am
Yeah.
that data architect, I am that data scientist, I am that, you know insurance sales guy, I
Hmm.
am this marketing person. I am defined by those labels,
Yeah.
and it is all consuming, and I don't have time naturally
Hmm.
to learn, grow, develop, nurture, all of those nice words,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right?
But then let's also evaluate the risk of what happens if we don't do that, right? I mean, is it an option at all in the first place? Like, I mean, the way we are seeing it and the examples that we are hearing, say, going from being a tech writer to a
Mm,
UX person
mm,
is a big jump,
yeah,
especially when your mind is not wired to think along those lines in the first place.
yeah,
So, if either we accept that maybe for the next few years the choice doesn't exist, and for that reason alone, we have to
yeah.
develop some curiosity. I know it sounds exhausting. I would be really, really irritated by someone saying this to me. But maybe we don't have to start with, I don't know, doing an AI boot camp.
Mm,
If that's not our jam,
huh.
right? We don't have to begin there. We can maybe begin in slightly simpler ways, I feel.
I think for many, you know knowledge workers and just the employee of today,
Hmm.
even figuring out how to just step out of that mentally for a weekend,
Hmm.
uh,
I hear you.
that can this weekend be not about work in any shape or form, right? Can I be okay with not doing nothing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Where I am not assessing my productivity, I'm not assessing if I got something done, ticked off some things from a task list,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? um, I'm not thinking that, oh, if I'm not working, then am I doing something that's nurturing my soul and my health and my
Hmm. Hmm.
relationships? Like,
Which
just,
is also a checklist, and God knows it's
which is
draining.
also a checklist. So
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
that be stage two. Like, stage one, first, learn to disconnect from what is your
Yeah.
everyday and all consuming,
Yeah.
right? Uh, don't answer those emails continuously over the weekend,
Mm.
right? It will wait.
And that's a big one, no? It takes a while for the other side to
Yeah,
get used to
yeah,
it, because
yeah.
I saw that when I started stop doing the non-work
Mm, mm,
aspect of work, it unsettles a lot of people.
yeah.
But finally, if we can believe that the value we bring is strong enough and we are continuing to build on it. Like it's not stagnant value, right? It's
Mm.
flowing water.
Yeah.
There I go with the water based metaphors. But if you believe that, then if the non work aspect of it is cut out, right?
Mm.
Say someone's sending you an ask, but the ask is not clear enough, then I'm okay to ask the question of,
Mm.
why haven't you done your job, right?
Yeah.
Um, I feel like that in itself may free up some time, but yes, in the early days, it will make a lot of people very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To what extent can you push is an individual decision. And I hope that this episode is also a call to the organization, because that is also people, right? There are
Yeah.
senior management, there is executive management. Please stop and think. Like,
No, true.
there is a reason we've seen you as role models for the longest time. Don't fail now. When we
Mm.
need you the most,
Yeah.
please reflect a little more and please start thinking about, okay, if this is what I'm asking from the other person, clearly for my own, gain and growth, then what am I giving in return, and is that enough? I
Yeah.
think we saw this ironically with the banking sector, right? Like to this day, they're trying to sell us cards that make no sense and policies that make no sense. And I'm like, the world has moved on. How are you not seeing the
Yeah.
signs? I think, please, if you have, you are in a position of power, and everybody who manages someone is in a position of power. Let's be
Correct.
very,
Correct.
very honest about that. Please think about what you're being able to offer in return.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the moon and the stars, but there will be something that you can shift.
No, and I think in there you've hit the nail on what I keep seeing in a lot of the coaching conversations, right? Um, please start with self.
Hmm.
Just, if you can at least spend 1 hour the coming weekend on, hey, who am I when I turn up at work?
Hmm. Hmm.
What are my patterns? What am I expecting from other people? What could perhaps they, what are the signals they're sending me that I need to do something differently?
Hmm. Hmm.
I had a conversation with someone who's, um, he's working in the US. 50s, right? So
Hmm.
has been in financial services career for a while.
Hmm.
And as he's narrating his experiences, he's saying, uh, I believe in loyalty. So
Hmm.
this is
Hmm.
only the third organization that I've been
Hmm.
in, and I believe in coming to work every day because
Hmm.
there's still work to be done by interacting with each other, looking at
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
physical, documents, whatever, whatever. um, and there was significant amount of angst
Hmm.
when somebody wanted to do it differently in terms of
True.
working from home for
Hmm.
one like he was not able to let go
Yeah.
of what he thinks is very core to how work is done,
Yeah.
because that's how he has seen it over 30 years.
I want to dwell a little more on the idea of loyalty, because interestingly, someone else told me the same thing. But of course, they're much earlier in their career and probably as a result more miserable by virtue of being loyal. Loyalty doesn't only mean sticking to something, right? Like loyalty means I've been here long enough and I care about the well being of this thing long
Mm.
enough to say it's rotten,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? There are parts of it that are not working and you can't see it because your perspective is not that. But because I have been loyal, I'm telling you. To me, I think that loyalty, I wonder how many managers and leadership will be able to appreciate.
No, I think very few, and
Hmm.
that's and it starts with introspection. It starts with, what are people around me saying and what are they not saying, but what are they asking for that I'm denying?
Hmm. Hmm.
Why am I denying or why am I uncomfortable?
Hmm.
What are my patterns? Like what has not changed at all about how I show up at work in the last
Hmm.
20 years?
Hmm.
And that's it. That's it telling what you hear back from yourself, like if over 20 years you do this exactly the same way when
Ship of
everything
Theseus.
around you has changed so much, right?
Yeah.
Just reflect, is it okay, is it serving you? Like
Yeah.
there's got to be something to
Move or
gather
shift.
from there,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because the people around you and who's coming into the organization, they're coming in with a very different experience of the world and a
Hmm.
different ambition
Hmm.
of the world. right? But that's
Yeah.
the toughest part, getting folks to reflect on their own patterns.
Mm.
Because,
And which is interesting because also in today's world, the opportunities and avenues for coaching are more readily available.
yeah,
There are organizations, again, maybe I don't know if it's a Bangalore thing, but there are so many organizations doing cutting edge work in the space of organizations and org behavior.
yeah,
So what will it take for us to start collaborating, to start having more nuanced
yeah,
conversations on, because who you show up at work is a very, very telling sign of who you are in
yeah.
life.
No, which is why I would say, like, I realize I'm saying it, but don't even like wait for finding a coach and, doing something formal and doing, yes,
Yeah.
that would be ideal. But just start with a
Start the
colleague
work.
who's known you for a while,
Mm.
or start with a colleague who's just met you,
Mm-hmm.
and be vulnerable enough to
Mm.
say what are the patterns you see in me, and
Mm.
it's a two-way street, right? You're
Mm.
having a conversation,
Mm.
but find someone in your workspace to have vulnerable conversations with, to reflect on what's working, what's not working. And you don't, if you're not comfortable, you don't have to make it so personal, but just talk about, hey, what are we hearing from our next layer?
Mm. Mm.
What are we hearing from below? What are we hearing from above? What does
Mm.
that mean for us? Like, let's
Mm.
put our collective energies together
Mm.
and see, like you said, what's best for the organization. If we're so
Mm.
loyal,
Mm.
then what's best for the organization, if let's collectively just talk
Have a
about
chat.
it.
And it's so interesting, and so telling of our own belief systems, I think, and our work, obviously, wherein I think you are speaking more from the individual,
Huh.
right? And I am the rebel in me or the vigilante in me speaking more from the system, to say the system is wrong,
Yeah,
right? And we
yeah,
built it, right? So we
yeah,
can change it, right?
yeah.
So yeah,
No, very
both
true.
have to happen, right?
Both
It's
have to
there's
happen,
no.
right?
Mm.
So, I mean, most people, after some years of work, when we ask them what's the worst advice you got, it was to follow your passion and
Yeah,
all of that, right?
yeah.
So don't have to go down that path where you feel like, oh, I have to drop everything I'm doing and I have to find that one thing which is my passion
Mm,
and
mm,
my life's calling or whatever. That
mm,
happens to very few of us. But in the day to day, start making time for other types of people and conversations.
mm, mm,
And one thing will lead to another, and then
mm,
suddenly you're maybe just going on a half a day trek with some group,
mm, mm, mm,
and you're figuring out that that's something that you enjoy,
mm,
right? Or maybe you're trying to figure out other skills,
mm,
that maybe you can really teach well,
mm,
and
mm.
that's something you want to start over the weekend. I mean, these sound like very, I don't know, as I'm saying it also, like, how
Yeah.
will a person who's feeling so trapped and burnt out
Mm,
receive this?
mm.
But you have to do the work to reach the place where you can
Yeah,
receive it,
yeah,
and that each
yeah.
individual has to do the work themselves.
And honestly, when you are trapped and burnt out, I think first, please do reach out. I know it feels very lonely. I mean,
Mm,
God knows I know it feels very lonely, but someone else has gone through that same journey. And sometimes just knowing that there are others and there is precedent to this can be so relaxing to
yeah.
begin with. And then, of course, the main question here is how do we take work on the pedestal that it is in and put it slightly sideways?
Mm,
Right?
mm.
We are not saying
Yeah,
throw it all
yeah,
to the wind, and yeah, I mean, sure, if that's what you want and you are able to, but can we decenter it a little bit, and put ourselves back
yeah.
in the middle?
As you're saying that, I also realize there are large groups of people who are extremely happy in that um, journey as an employee, right? I think we have to
Fantastic.
also
Yeah, yeah.
we also have to call out that not everybody is sick of
Miserable,
it
and
and
yeah,
miserable. There are
yeah.
a lot of them who are extremely happy what they're doing. There's ambition, there is a path that they see. I
And
mean,
actually, there are jobs where it's possible to get those promotions year on year. It's possible to receive that validation, and amazing, right? I mean,
yeah,
glad that we
yeah,
got something right, not that
yeah.
everything was wrong.
No, I think my where I was coming from, my message to that group also is that once in a while, just remind yourself that
Hmm.
given the context of the world we're in
Hmm.
today, that could be taken away from you in a jiffy,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
reality,
Yeah.
right?
I hear
And
you.
it would have nothing to do with how good you are or how actually happy you
Hmm.
are climbing that ladder.
Which is where I think that essence of what have I taken away, while we do that with our degrees, maybe we start doing that with our jobs as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
To say because of this, and it's interesting because I was working with a client in a brand workshop recently, and I felt that they had really thought through it. The example they used to describe themselves was a workplace
Hmm.
example, but there was a lot of thought put into what has that done to me
Hmm.
and what has that done for me, what about it have I managed to bring out into this startup that I'm now part of.
Hmm.
I think it's a continuous process.
Yeah. But I think that's my call to action to, those who may be listening, saying, listen, all that's fine, but I'm kind of okay here.
Hmm, hmm,
Continuing here is right now feeling easier than trying to find something else to do, or find um, to get into that great introspection and to find the other one thing I'm good at and all that. I'm good for now,
hmm, hmm,
right? But I think I would just challenge them that the one thing you have to today worry about is that tomorrow that role and that organization and that title you identify with so strongly may not exist.
hmm,
It
hmm,
may
hmm,
just get taken away from you.
hmm,
And at that point, please don't feel like you have failed anybody or anything,
hmm,
but just take a deep breath and say, okay, what next?
hmm,
Now, some of you may have done the work to be already prepared for it. Some of you may be starting on that day
hmm,
that this
hmm,
is no longer available to me. Now what?
hmm,
Right?
hmm,
Which is when you either reach out to others or just just take it from there,
hmm.
because it is possible at any stage to reinvent, to do something else, to find something else.
Yeah,
Will it be easy? No. Will it be extremely uncomfortable, maybe even embarrassing, shameful, all of that?
yeah.
Yes. But just remind yourself that over those 20, 30, or 10 years you have picked up skills,
Hmm,
and those skills will be useful somewhere else,
hmm,
right? And it may not be the same kind of work or same kind of organization. That's okay,
hmm.
right? Be ready to drop that identity, walk away with the essence.
Interestingly, back in 2018, there was this friend on the entrepreneurship track, much ahead of me, if I could.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was not at all the person that I am today. I think, yeah, all the parts have been replaced. Let's just say that. And he said something interesting to me where he said, tomorrow, even if this whole thing shuts down, what I know is not going to be taken away from me, right? Like I will
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
have that to fall back on.
Hmm.
Today, funnily, we stand at an inflection point where that can also be taken away. There is,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
very ready, eager, enthusiastic knowledge worker just waiting to
yeah,
sort of claim that. So I feel like all the more reason to really get down to the brass tacks of, okay, then who am I?
yeah,
Beyond the skill set, beyond the,
yeah.
practicality of it, who can I be?
I've recently I realized I've always admired somebody who calls themselves a serial entrepreneur,
Mm.
because I realized it meant that they're always ready to shut something down and
And
move on to the
yeah,
next one.
yeah.
It essentially means that, right? That
Mm-hmm.
I will do something and there'll be a point when I'm either tired of doing it, I don't enjoy it anymore, or I found someone else who will do
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and hence I will move on to the next thing,
Mm.
right? But we're calling them a serial entrepreneur, right? Stop, start, stop, start. And in some of those are successes, some of those are failures, but we're
Mm.
not judging that.
Yeah.
But there's a glorified title of a serial entrepreneur. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
need an
Interesting. Mm.
equivalent for the serial corporate
Corporate.
employee.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I'll do something. I've done it. I don't see a next. I
Mm-hmm.
see a certain ceiling. I'll jump to something else. I might do that for a little while. I may not like it, or they may not like me. Okay, then I'll go to the next.
Mm.
But that is okay too.
I think they're called millennials, if I'm not wrong, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, so I think any discussion on career identity and fluidity, there's always a bit of, I don't know, I feel a little preachy sometimes because it's
Mm-hmm.
so difficult for each individual, because
Mm-hmm.
each journey is so unique.
Yeah.
And we're talking just about the work aspect of their journey, and then there's so many
Yeah, yeah. It
other
always, I mean, when does life
societal.
ever happen in theory? No,
Yeah,
that's the,
yeah.
yeah.
There are other societal pressures that they have to deal with.
Mm,
The sole breadwinner, or somebody
of course.
who jumped out of the family business to do something and hence now prove yourself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So many nuances to it, that I think the what we can leave folks with is to be, I don't know, open to some newer ideas. Test waters in whatever way you feel comfortable.
Mm,
Start with some conversation, start with doing a little bit somewhere, start with not doing something like work over the
mm,
weekend,
big time. Yeah.
start with volunteering, whatever is that one step you can take.
Mm,
Just keep trying to take it
mm,
till you're ready for the next step, because um, I think a lot of us in the coming years, what we're doing is suddenly going to become redundant, or you need to do it in a completely different way. Like so many times, even for the podcast, right, we've talked about it, that
yeah.
will there be podcasting 5 years from now?
Yeah. And
Like,
interestingly, I
you
mean,
know
this year we choose to go video and we find out audio is dead. Right. And we're like, oh, thank God, at least one thing, and not that.
not that we planned it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And behind the programming of an episode every 2 weeks, there are so many things that worked and there are so many that didn't work also. So it's
yeah,
taken, yeah, and we keep learning.
correct. So yeah, I think here's wishing all of those who are in that, I mean, who's not in some
Yeah.
kind of a career journey, the strength to take the next step
Yeah.
in a positive direction.
Yeah. And do it with community.
Yeah.
Gets a little easier.
That's it, folks. Let us know where you are in your career. Leave us comments, leave us emails, whatever suits you. What's your challenge? Where you are? How can we help? Would love to know. Bye. So now it's time for Read, Watch, Listen, a segment where we like to share what we're enjoying in any medium. So, my recommendation this week is Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. This is not a new book, actually, it's quite a few years old, but his journey is interesting in the context of career fluidity that we've been talking about, because he was a number one table tennis player for Britain, won many championships, I think even Olympic level, and then did that for 10 years and then moved into journalism, and then moved into writing about themes that really spoke to him, and a lot of it is about high performance and work culture. And so in this book, he talks a lot about growth mindset and organizations that have a learning culture versus a blame culture. And the stories and anecdotes are extremely interesting. Don't miss the one about the CIA during the Osama bin Laden phase. He also brings out how certain ways of work and systems that you build can really elevate performance. A really great read. uh, Black box thinking.
So careers are curvy anyway, but if a certain Emmy award winning performer is to be believed, and I think we should, given his life experience, life is curvy. And that's the premise of The Outsider by Veer Das, a book that I've been enjoying because honestly, it's a very easy, breezy read. It sounds a lot like he's talking to you. And by the sixth chapter, he's already changed preferences. He's already changed lifestyles. He's lived in 3 countries, if I'm not wrong. And there's something very validating about realizing that you don't have to be in the mainstream. You can be on the fringes. And maybe that's where the magic happens. So, my recommendation is The Outsider by Veer Das.